Calisthenics. Christ is in our midst. Today, on Saturday, November 25th, we celebrate St. Catherine, the great martyr of Alexandria, as well as the Apodosis of the presentation of the Theotokos into the temple, and St. Mercurius, the great martyr of Caesarea and Cappadocia. I would also like to take this time to wish my kumbara and the godmother of my son, Vasilis Kusvalandis, Presitera Katerini Kunavis Kroniopola, as well as my Nuna Kokakathi, and all those who celebrate St. Catherine Kroniopola. Many, many blessings of St. Catherine to you and your families.
Regarding the great martyr, St. Catherine of Alexandria. The holy great martyr Catherine was the daughter of Constans, the governor of Alexandria, during the reign of Emperor Maximian. Living in the capital, the center of Hellenistic knowledge, and possessed of a rare beauty and intellect, Catherine received an excellent education, studying the works of the greatest philosophers and teachers of antiquity. Now, we have to remember that Alexandria was home to the Alexandrian Library, one of the 7 wonders of the world. All of the greatest philosophers, all of the greatest rhetors and educators went to Alexandria to get learning. Young men from the most worthy families of the empire sought the hand of the beautiful Catherine, but she was not interested in any of them. She told her parents that she would enter into marriage only with someone who surpassed her in nobility, wealth, comeliness, and wisdom. Catherine's mother, a secret Christian, sent her to her own spiritual father, a saintly elder living in a cave outside the city, for advice. After listening to Catherine, the elder said that he knew of someone who surpassed her in everything. His countenance is more radiant than the shining of the sun, and all of creation is governed by his wisdom. His riches are given to all the nations of the world, yet they never diminish. His compassion is unequaled. This description of the heavenly bridegroom produced an ardent desire in the soul of the holy maiden to see him. "If you do as I tell you," said the monk, "you will gaze upon the countenance of this illustrious man." In parting, the elder gave Catherine an icon of the Theotokos with a divine child on her arm, and told her to pray with faith to the Queen of Heaven, the mother of the heavenly bridegroom, and she would hear Catherine and grant her heart's desire. Catherine prayed all night and was permitted to see the most holy Virgin, who said to her divine son, "Behold thy handmaiden Catherine, how fair and virtuous she is." But the child turned his face away from her, saying, "No, she is ugly and unbelieving. She is a foolish pauper, and I cannot bear to look at her until she forsakes her impiety." Catherine turned again to the elder deeply saddened, and told him what she had seen in the dream. He received her, instructed her in the faith of Christ, admonished her to preserve her purity and integrity, and to pray unceasingly. She then received the mystery of holy baptism from him. Again St. Catherine had a vision of the most holy Theotokos with her child. Now the Lord looked at her tenderly, and gave her a beautiful ring, a wondrous token of her betrothal to the heavenly bridegroom. This ring is still on her hand. At that time, Emperor Maximian was in Alexandria for a pagan festival. Therefore the celebration was especially splendid and crowded. The cries of the sacrificial animals, the smoke and the smell of the sacrifices, the endless blazes of fires, and the bustling crowds of the arenas defiled the city of Alexandria. Human victims were also brought, confessors of Christ who would not deny him under torture. They were condemned to death in the fire. Catherine's love for the Christian martyrs and her fervent desire to ease their sufferings compelled her to speak to the pagan priest and to the Emperor Maximian. Introducing herself, the saint confessed her faith in the one true God and exposed the error of the pagans. The beauty of the maiden captivated the emperor. In order to convince her of the superiority of pagan wisdom, the emperor ordered 50 of the most learned philosophers and rhetoricians of the empire to dispute with her. But the saint got the better of the wise men, so that they came to believe in Christ themselves. St. Catherine made the sign of the cross over the martyrs, and they bravely accepted death for Christ and were burnt alive by the order of the emperor. Many times we see in the church that people want to put down women as somehow silly or unwise and pit them against the fathers of the church and say that they are less than. This is not true. St. Catherine showed herself through Christ to be more wise than the wisest people on earth at that time. Unable to persuade the saint, Maximian tried to entice her with the promise of riches and fame. Hearing her angry refusal, the emperor ordered his men to subject the saint to terrible tortures and to throw her in prison. The Emperor Augusta, who had heard much about the saint, wanted to see her. She prevailed upon the military commander Porphyrius to accompany her to the prison with a detachment of soldiers. The empress was impressed by Catherine's strong spirit, and her face was radiant with divine grace. The holy martyr explained that Christian faith to them and they were converted to Christ. On the following day, they again brought the martyr to the judgment court, where under the threat of being broken on the wheel, she was urged to renounce the Christian faith and to offer sacrifice to the gods. This wheel, in torture today is called Catherine's wheel, is a wheel made of sharp blades, so that as it turns on the body of the tortured, it'll rip them to pieces. The saint steadfastly confessed Christ, and she was taken to be tortured on 4 wheels with sharp iron spikes, but an angel smashed the instrument of execution, which shattered into pieces with many pagans standing nearby. After seeing this miracle, the Empress Augusta and the imperial courtier Porphyrius and 200 soldiers confessed their faith in Christ before everyone, and they were beheaded. Maximian tried again to entice the holy martyr, offering to marry her, and again he was refused. St. Catherine remained faithful to her heavenly bridegroom Christ, and after praying to him, she laid her head on the block beneath the executioner's sword. The relics of St. Catherine were taken by the angels to Mount Sinai in the 6th century. The venerable head and left hand of the holy martyr were found through a revelation and transferred with honor to the newly constructed church of the monastery of Mount Sinai, built by the holy Emperor Justinian. St. Catherine is called upon for the relief and assistance during difficult childbirth. Pilgrims to her monastery on Mount Sinai are given souvenir rings as a remembrance of their visit. Let us praise the most auspicious bride of Christ, divine Catherine, protectress of Sinai, our aid and help, for she brilliantly silenced the eloquence of the impious by the sword of the Spirit, and now crowned as a martyr, she asks great mercy for us all. O friends of martyrs, now divinely raise up with renewed chorus, praising the all-wise Catherine, who she proclaimed Christ in the arena, trampled upon the serpents, and spat upon the knowledge of the orators. So within the icon of St. Catherine, we see several things. We see that she's wearing a crown. This has a dual image because first she has her martyr's crown because of her martyrdom. Second, she was of royal lineage. She is often seen carrying a cross, which is for her martyrdom, or a quill, a large feather, because of her philosophy, because she was wiser than all of the rhetors and the philosophers of Alexandria. For all of those who celebrate today, including my sons Nuna, Presitera Ekaterini Kunavis, and my own godmother, Kokakathy Kronyopola. Regarding Saint Mercurius, the great martyr of Caesarea and Cappadocia, Saint Mercurius came from Cappadocia and was the son of Gordian, a Scythian, a young man and a soldier of high rank. He refused to offer sacrifice to the idols, and after torments was beheaded during the reign of Valerian. Your martyr, O Lord, in his courageous contest for you, received as the prize the crowns of incorruption and life from your immortal God. For since he possessed your strength, he cast down the tyrants, and wholly destroyed the demon's strengthless presumption. O Christ God, by his prayer, save our souls, since you are merciful. From the Matins Gospel according to St. Matthew. The Lord said this parable: The kingdom of heaven shall be compared to 10 maidens who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they had no oil with them. But the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all slumbered and slept. But at midnight there was a cry, Behold the bridegroom! Come out to meet him! Then all the maidens rose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise replied, Perhaps there will not be enough for us and for you. Go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came. And those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Afterward the other maidens came also, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he replied, Truly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man will come. So this allegory of the maidens is especially resplendent when we look at the story and the life of St. Catherine the Great. For she desired to be the bridegroom of Christ, and before she became Christian, she was seen as ugly. She was seen as not desirable because her journey was not yet complete. And then when her journey was complete, she received the ring showing her betrothal to Christ our God. The foolish virgins and the wise virgins in this parable are basically shown as carriers of virtues. For the oil is virtue. And the reason why this is important for us to know is because it seems very odd that the wise virgins would say, well, you can't have any of our oil. It seems very not nice to share. But if the fuel is something that cannot be shared, you cannot share your virtues. You cannot share kindness. You cannot share generosity. You cannot share patience. These are only things that you can acquire through time and wisdom and life. And so if you are foolish, you're not going to have these things. And you can try to purchase them, but it's not going to work, and it'll be too late. And if we do not have these qualities of God, Christ is not going to know who we are. He's not going to be able to look upon us and say, "You are my friend. You are my servant." From St. Paul's letter to the Galatians. Brethren, before faith came, we were confined under the law, kept under restraint until faith should be revealed, so that the law was our custodian until Christ came, that we might be justified by faith. But now that faith has come, we are no longer under a custodian, for in Christ Jesus you are all sons of God through faith. For as many of you were baptized in Christ have put on Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is neither male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. If you're Christ, then you're Abraham's offspring, heirs according to the promise. I mean that the heir, as long as he's a child, is no better than a slave, though he is the owner of all the estate, but he is under guardians and trustees until the date set by the Father. So with us, when we were children, we were slaves to the elemental spirits of the universe, meaning that our philosophy, our understanding, was to things like gods and parables and fables and myths and legends. But now that we know the truth, we're no longer slaves to those things. And St. Catherine, by converting all of those rhetors, all of those philosophers, shows us that she has this wisdom of God. But when the time had fully come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive adoption as sons. The Gospel during the liturgy according to St. Mark. At that time a great crowd followed Jesus and thronged about him, and there was a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years, and had suffered much under many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was no better, but rather grew worse. This shows us that this woman had put all of her trust in worldly knowledge, worldly physicians, but it didn't help her, it didn't save her. She had heard the report about Jesus, and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his garment, for she said, "If I touch even his garments, I shall be made well." This is directly related to the epistle that we just heard, because it is through faith that we are made well. It is through faith that we are saved. It is not through worldly knowledge. And immediately the hemorrhage ceased, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. And Jesus, perceiving in himself that power had gone forth from him, immediately turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my garments?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowds pressing around you on all sides, and yet you say, 'Who touched you?'" And he looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had been done to her, came in fear and trembling and fell down before him and told the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace, be healed of your disease." May the intercessions of St. Catherine, the great martyr, be with all of us. I hope that you've enjoyed today's spiritual calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.